And indeed, all of the patient's holes were sealed shut. Oh, hello, and welcome back, goblins, to another deep dive into Fringe here on the channel. A show that I personally love very, very much. Not only for its bombastic cast of characters, but the science fiction concepts that shoot so high, but always remember at the end of the day to have a trajectory down back to the character level, connecting a show that should be just so off the rails to still feel so grounded and real. And today, we're gonna be getting into season 3 of Fringe, where I think the show started having some real cracks, problems that did come through, but overall still is a sensational watching experience, and I will maintain I am a bit biased. This is my favorite show of all time, but for those of you who watched my last Fringe video and wanted to see me get a bit more critical, you will certainly be seeing that here.
It's unrealistic to think that I wouldn't do what I can do.
Wait, I'm having an idea.
Just hit somebody.
My poor baby. My poor child. Oh, that's not the line? What's it?
What is that line?
And without any further ado, let's start talking about what makes Fringe Season 3 some of the highest highs Fringe managed to find as a franchise, but at the same time, while being able to rely on such firm ground it set up in the first 2 seasons, possibly got a bit too ambitious for its britches in the last half of the season especially. Because of how the narrative is handled for Fringe in seasons 1 and 2, we spent quite a bit of time in the last video talking about Walter Bishop and his son, Peter, specifically focusing on the development of their relationship. And while I love that relationship dynamic, and I do believe in many ways it is the soul of Fringe, the main character of this story and the heart of it is still Olivia Dunham, a badass who continues sci-fi's long tradition of incredible female leads. As a character, she is right up there with Ripley, Starbuck, and Sarah Connor, and these next seasons focus on her growth and development now that Peter and Walter have settled into their father-son dynamic very well. In these next seasons, Olivia Dunham is going to go through some of the most intense mind you can imagine. And while we talked about the abundance of emotionally devastating moments in season 1 and 2, season 3 is where there is just so much emotional turmoil polluting our entire Fringe crew that I do believe if it wasn't for genre snobbery, Fringe should be looked at as just a sensational character drama across the board. Here in the latter seasons, the writers begin to stab and twist into their characters with reckless yet super effective potency. I'm not saying this is handled perfectly all the way through, and after rewatching season 3, I can flat out admit that at times, Fringe certainly bites off more than it can chew. I've already admitted that season 3 can get weak, but it begins in top form, taking a character we've all seen finally lay down her walls and putting her through hell so she can go back home. Because remember where season 2 left off.
Please let me out of here.
I know you can hear me. Please let me out of here.
Yes, our beloved Olivia starts off this season still trapped in the other universe at the hands of the same man who experimented on her when she was a child. That is not actually true. She is in the hands of an even more evil version of the man who experimented on her as a child. But now, from here, I bring you This episode is titled Olivia because we are jumping straight into watching Olivia getting aggressively brainwashed to believe she is faux Olivia, the version of herself from this universe who, at the end of the last season, went back to our universe and successfully infiltrated the Fringe team. I said in my last video I regretted them showing us that so overtly, so early on, but I take that back. One, there's really no way you could have hidden that effectively without showing us it is going to occur. Like, from a writer's standpoint, it's either you don't show it at all and people get mad at you later on for not showing it, or you do show it and everyone just knows. I think it is the right call because I forgot in season 3 how long we really wait for the Fringe crew to learn who Olivia really is and how much emotional devastation comes along from that reveal. The reason it's shown early is so that this build can just sit with us for an uncomfortable length of time in the right way.
The right light. Your hair looks like strands of lemon diamonds.
But back with real Olivia, that's right. They're trying to eradicate her identity so she will work with them willingly. This is enhanced by injecting her with sci-fi jargon that makes her start to have Olivia's memories. They are actually trying to mind destroy her to the point where original Olivia is erased and instead the other universe has 2 of their own Olivias. Here we see Olivia manage to break out of the Statue of Liberty because that's where this side's Department of Defense is located, because this side, while they are more evil, definitely have more style. And she manages to make her way all the way to alternate New York because she's amazing. She then takes a cab driver hostage and straight up tells him how much danger she is in and part of what was done with her. The Tassel team, or this side's version of the Fringe team, I came up with what I might say is quite the clever alternative word for Fringe, but the Tassel team eventually does catch up to Olivia.
I know you took a blow to your head.
Would you come any closer?
Believe me, I know that the treatment can feel worse than the disease.
Olivia isn't being tricked by just some drugs and emotional manipulation, and
There was a firefight!
there are some advantages of the drugs Olivia has been dosed with because she is also picking up some of Olivia's traits. These people are not one-to-ones of each other. While Olivia has the advantage of an eidetic memory, Olivia is an Olympic-level shooter, which means now Olivia is an Olympic-level shooter. This really begins to screw with Olivia, though. The drugs are working, and she is becoming Olivia. She didn't know she was injected with these things, so it's another layer of her mind being messed with. The good news, though, is the cab driver begins to vibe with Olive.
I'm not crazy, you know.
A few years ago, I was in a bad way. Couldn't pull myself out. Inside, I knew I was somebody else. And there's only one other person who believes that. Jasmine. I mean, sometimes you just gotta believe in what you can't see.
Olivia needs to try and find a way to get out of this universe. Olivia goes to a safe house she remembers from the other side and hopes the same safe house exists here. Except, it actually turns out she goes to her mom's house. This leads Olivia to running into her mom in this universe, who, unlike back home, is still alive.
Surprise, motherfucker!
I'm not your daughter. My mother died when I was 14 years old. This is all wrong. You're not supposed to be here. Sweetheart! Don't you call me that. I'm not your daughter.
Yes, you are. You're just confused.
This was going to be my way home.
This is your home.
No, my
This is your
home is in Jacksonville, Florida. I was
moved up
brought
here
up
3
from an
years ago.
army
You
base.
helped
I've
me
never
with
been here before.
If you'd never been here, how did you know to come here?
I helped you paint, didn't I?
Yeah. You picked the colors. I wanted blue, but you convinced me to use
Yellow. Because it was more cheerful.
And if you think that's bad enough, seeing one of her most beloved characters literally get erased and replaced by a version of herself who's currently infiltrating her life, well, watch. It's about to get far worse.
Thanks, Charlie,
For what?
for being my friend.
Hey, Liv.
Yeah.
Thank you for not shooting me.
That's right. The partner that she lost last season and whose death devastated her, she's now getting to hang out with the other universe version of Charlie, Charlatan. We can't call him Farley because there was already a faux Charlie, so we can't keep it. If you watched the last video, you would know. Daniel, that's not that bad. Oh, you want to see it get worse? Well, watch, it gets worse. Because we're back in our universe, and we left with faux Olivia charming her way into our Fringe crew, and hot damn, is she good at it.
You know, I haven't seen those in a while.
Your shoes.
The wallabies.
Are you bringing them back?
Where did they go?
This will come up later, but it's important to realize our team genuinely likes Olivia a lot. She is, admittedly, warmer than Olivia, and Peter just assumes their new relationship is causing Olivia, the woman he loves, to relax and open up more. That is so up.
Well, that's up in all kinds of ways now, isn't it?
This is clearly season 3's way of signaling to you that it's Olivia's time to take the spotlight fully, emotionally as well. And I love that it is fully utilizing the multiverse concept from the last seasons and, yeah, pushing through with, before it was just replacement agents who were kind of shallow, but what if someone actually close to you in your life was successfully replaced?
I can't even tell if any of you are acting strange because you've been replaced or because this group is full of weirdos.
How far could that go into just wrecking your life? This is why we love Fringe. And now we are in episode 2, The Box.
What's in the box?
And I mean, like, at least Olivia isn't an awful person, right? We know that. This is someone infiltrating our team who's got, like, some morals and stuff. Right? Well, watching her work a case with our Fringe team is a great litmus test for that. And in this episode, we see the Fringe team ends up working to try and track down a piece of the artifact that was discovered in last season. The artifact they know is already assembled on the other side, but needs Peter to work, who thankfully is back in this universe.
There has to be some other plan.
Peter, these cacao beans, they're inedible. Jane will never be able to digest them.
She's a cow, Walter. She could probably digest the frying pan.
Surprise. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
It turns out this artifact has surfaced because Very, Very Bad Man from last season is working with Olivia to try and secure all of the parts. It was dug up from the basement in a home and killed everyone in the house because the person was stupid enough to open the box, and the sound is lethal, though one member of the crew was deaf. And the deaf guy who originally stole the artifact actually manages to track Olivia down and ask for help. He was just a part of a thieving crew, and he wants to give the artifact to Fringe. He's in way over his head, and this is a terrifying situation. Great, a test to make sure Olivia is a good person and won't just...
I'm sorry.
Yes! That's awesome!
So, Olivia is definitely willing to kill an innocent civilian just to further her universe's goals. You can justify this by saying it's war, she's a secret agent, but my God, that's dark. Making it somewhat worse, it's even emphasized earlier in this episode that Olivia sees Peter advocating to try and find peace between the two universes and not assemble the machine on our side to start a war, but she is still following through with this. She knows we are not an immediate direct threat, but I understand. She still has to do what she's got to do for the cause. It's just rough. After she kills this guy, it looks like she might actually get caught early on because Peter shows up at her place while the body is still leaking blood from the bathroom before she can dispose of it. To distract him, she actually tries to seduce Peter.
The last few weeks have been hard on all of us. You know, of course, there's always the temporary fix.
The temporary fix?
Distraction.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Real good look there, Olivia. So let's just say Olivia is not very chill. I don't want to say like holy evil person, but it's not a good look. I kind of take that back. This is pretty evil. She's debate for like what she's doing to Peter is super not okay and bordering into things I can't talk about because YouTube will demonetize me. And on top of that, she just committed all-out murder. I get like soldiers obey orders, but I can still think that's evil. And after she's able to pass off this artifact to a very evil bad man from the other universe, he then uses it in a terrorist plot. And we get this happening to a dead body. Sorry, YouTube again will not let me show that, but trust me, it's gross. The device is recovered by Fringe team, and it turns out they were supposed to get it activated so Peter could start working on the device on this side. They are being set up by the other universe so that they will complete the device. Oh, and the last important thing, because we know Belle is now dead, Walter inherits all of Massive Dynamic, the insane man who started all of this and violated the very fabric of reality, now controls the most powerful company in the world.
Walter, your tie. I think you have a little bit of brain on it. Here, let me,
You licked it. That is something that happened. I think we need to get you some air and perhaps have a long talk about unresolved childhood issues.
Episode 3, The Plateau. Now we're back to our first fairly regular Fringe episode that is just trying to tackle a Fringe concept, but be warned, there are not as many just individual badass Fringe concept first team episodes in this season as there were in the last seasons, which I maintain is to the show's opposite of benefit. Detriment. In this episode, a man dosed with a drug becomes so intelligent he can set up traps for people in the real world, like placing a pin at the right place at the right time so that it'll fall and cause a crash. The fun part of this episode, though, is it's not taking place in our universe. That's right, this isn't a Fringe episode, it's a Tassel episode, and thus begins Fringe's brilliantly treating both universes equally, causing the viewer to have greater conflict. These universes are destined to collide, and both are filled with souls. And on top of that, this alternate universe has been having to deal with natural disasters related to Walter's actions for decades. This isn't just a clear-cut right and wrong. Despite the Walter in the other universe being far eviler, the people on this side still have a right to fight for their existence. But that doesn't mean we need transition universe sound. This episode also confirms that the only people aware in the entire other universe that Faux-Livia is actually Olivia are alternate Broyles, or Simmers, as I'm deciding to call him, and Walternate. Simmers doesn't like having an unknown double agent on his team, 'cause duh. But Walternate wants her here so they can watch her while they try and figure out how her reality jumping powers work. If you didn't watch the last Fringe video, Olivia does genuinely just have the superpower to jump universes, though it's not like a very well-handled thing. Think of like X-Men power barely under control. I do like that in this episode, Olivia is able to take down the guy who can kind of see into the future with his incredible intelligence because he can't predict that she's not from this universe. Our Olivia is still in there, slightly influencing this faux Olivia's actions, which means someone who's trying to predict her movements based on who she is as a person in this universe will make mistakes.
Since when do you break protocol? You passed by an Auburn diamond, okay? Blinking Auburn diamond, which you ignored. Okay, compromised air quality.
Pressure's normal. Thank you. Yep.
You need oxygen to breathe.
Charlie, I'm sorry. I don't really even know why I did that.
Because you're a daredevil. Oh, I get it. So if you don't mind, I'd appreciate it if we don't go through this again.
We also see she is getting visions of Peter and Walter from back home, so we know something is in there fighting. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't Faux-Livia have a boyfriend? That guy is kind of brought in here a little bit, but he never elevates above Diet John Scott. You still don't matter, John Scott. Go away. Episode 4, Do Shapeshifters Dream of Electric Sheep? Decent reference, a little clunky there, but I see what you're trying to thematically go for here, Fringe. Good job! This episode on rewatch made Kayla note that Joshua Jackson has a wonderful voice and would be a great narrator, and I agree. Listen to him.
Look at the body language. They haven't slept together yet.
No.
You can always tell when a relationship's about to take that next step.
Like, I gave Joshua Jackson a lot of crap in the last video. I actually regret some of it. The dude is bodying a pretty minimal role, and I want to give him credit for that, especially in season 3 once he really settles into the character. Fringe doesn't have its characters screaming constantly. It happens, but it's earned. And Joshua Jackson's able to give some depth to someone who is often very, actually about to lash out, and that comes clear in this season. We'll talk about that in a minute. The big thing we learned from the opening of this episode is that a senator is a shapeshifter. The extra bad part was he was also a friend of Broyles, which means Broyles is in the hospital concerned for his friend when Very Bad shows up. Man, that's a crazy episode. We'll definitely need the full Fringe team. What's Walter doing as the, CEO of Massive Dynamic?
Is anyone else hot in here?
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, Peter, you're just in time for the good bit.
Time to put your pants back on, Walter. We got a case. We have to go.
Of course. I'll just get my things.
He's a bit unorthodox.
He's also tripping his brains out right now. You know that, right?
Sexually harassing his employees on drugs. Going about as expected there. So they take a tripping Walter to the body and he gets to work trying to revive this shapeshifter, a way to access its half-machine mind and gain information from the dead. Something Walter has a substantial experience in.
Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that one.
While they're digging into this mystery, Olivia attempts to push Peter off track and he pushes right back, seeing her advice is bad.
I can handle this if you want to go check on Walter, see how he's doing.
Astrid must be there by now. If they learn anything, I'm sure they'll call. There's nothing here.
Well, if he's like the other shapeshifters, he's going to be careful. He's not going to leave anything here that would tell us he wasn't the senator.
Well, except for one thing. He didn't know that today was the day he was going to die. Unless he had someone come in here and clean up after him. There's got to be something.
Our Fringe team, even sans Livia, is quite capable, and the show knows that. Now, of course, Olivia can't let the senator be revived, so a deep cover shapeshifter is sent to break into Massive Dynamic and re-kill the senator. Basically like super extra dextra kill him, because he was shot in a place that ruined kind of his mind, but not like fully. Now he's just gonna be fully killed. There's a whole thing with like a second memory bank in the shapeshifters. We'll get into it. Olivia gets told the assassin is on the way, and so she wants to get the Fringe team out of there so they can't stop the assassin. This forces her to be a bit more blunt again.
I am no longer high.
Walter, why don't we take a break and get something to eat?
I don't have an appetite.
Well, maybe just a change of scenery might clear your head.
Walter, I thought you said you weren't hungry.
I'm eating for comfort.
I absolutely adore the subtle and not so subtle portrayal differences between Olivia and Olivia. I've hit on this before, and I promise I will shut up about it now, but I just have to even say it again as this character is needing to evolve and is gaining information. Olivia changes in ways that Olivia wouldn't, and it instills this constant sense of paranoia and you watching to see if the other characters will catch on her slight slips. It's brilliant and just obligatory. One last mad props to Anna Torv, and we're moving on. I won't make it again. I'll leave it alone. I'll shut up. Now, Walter gets a brain blast after being taken out of the lab and abruptly goes back right as the assassin arrives.
Don't eat my pudding.
While this is happening, Peter decides to make Olivia, well, just like in her pants.
Maybe she did notice. She just made excuses for herself not to have to deal with it. Or she came up with ways to explain it to herself. Kind of like I've been doing with you.
With me?
With all the little differences ever since you got back from the other side. It's like you're a completely different person. Don't get me wrong, I like it. The change is good. But it's different.
Hey.
Where's Walter?
I don't know. You said he'd be right back.
Close call, but she's good.
Did you know that the Stegosaurus had a brain in its ass?
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
We see Peter find a hurt Walter. We know he's fine. And Olivia fake hunts the assassin. They use the cameras to learn the assassin's identity, and there is a whole B-plot of the shapeshifter actually loving the family he's been in deep cover with, and very evil bad guy not liking that. It ends with very evil bad just killing the shapeshifter so that he can't be a loose end. Well, I do like this episode as a whole and that concept. It does, on like my fourth rewatch of the show, so take this with a grain of salt, feel a bit obvious and heavy-handed, and I feel like I'm starving for a real Fringe concept in this universe this season, because even last time I was paying more attention to the Olivia plotline than the Fringe concept one. Am I the only Fringe fan who likes it when they just do like a straight-up Fringe episode, just like villain of the week stuff? I really love that.
The episode ends, though, with the Fringe team catching up to Newton, right as he is leaving the shapeshifter's house after cleaning up loose ends. There is a chase, which ends with Newton in a crash, and Olivia pocketing the device from her accomplice so it will not be found.
You'd think Newton being captured would be a very bad thing, but Olivia goes to where he is being held and slips him a razor.
Very good at that.
At what?
At continuing to try to convince yourself that you don't care. But you do care, don't you?
Ooh, dark and evil. The episode ends with Olivia finally betting Peter. Probably shaken by his observations of her changes in behavior, she really wants to seal the deal and get as close as possible. I want to give Fringe credit for, especially in the score and in the moment, portraying this as very sick and disturbing, with it being juxtaposed with Newton eating a razor and dying in prison. I've seen people say like, well, Peter is falling in love with no. And the final little cherry on top of how this is being handled, the show positions Olivia to also somewhat be aware of how horrid this is. It's unforgivable, but part of her disgusting orders in disguise, so she isn't happy about it. Episode 5. We're back on the other side. We see now that Olivia believes she is Olivia. She has agreed to be a part of experiments so she can jump into the other universe like Olivia, which she can do because this isn't Olivia, etc., etc. They explain it, they convince her. We actually do get a Fringe event this episode, which is some guy getting cut from the amber that this universe uses to plug the holes that are caused by Walter's rip in their universe. The important beat here is that we know people who are trapped in amber are forever stuck in their last moment. They don't just die. This info can't get out to the public. The episode ends with it turning out there is a brother double triple switch with twins happening, because this season is just obsessed with having as much commentary and theming around identity as possible. The big deal here is Olivia does a great job being Olivia and ends up saving the team's life. This makes the Tassel team a fan of Olivia without even really knowing it. They still think she's Olivia, but you know, setup. She doesn't fit into her new memories and keeps seeing Peter. Her mother notices her change and brings it up to simmers. Simultaneously, Olivia is snapping out of her identity and her mind is successfully rejecting this new identity forced on her. Part of this is Peter reminding her that today is her niece's birthday.
On the other side, your sister Rachel is still alive. She lives in Chicago. Her husband took a job there. They live at 1934 Sherman Way.
You're lying because
On the
Rachel
other
hates
side,
Chicago.
your beautiful niece Ella is alive. She was born, and it's her birthday today. She turned 7.
There's no way to prove it.
Yes, there is.
Which I find is a really sweet way to successfully tie back in an extended family that the show has just dropped. Don't worry, those characters will not be relevant again, but this is a successful use of them. Olivia heads to the lab on this side and gets another shot at trying to use her powers. With Olive now knowing who she is though, she is able to jump back to our side.
Hello?
Hi.
Aunt Liv, I knew you wouldn't forget my birthday.
This confirms she is Olivia, not Olivia. I do like a small detail here, though, that it also shows us, without us even being in this universe for most of this episode, that Olivia didn't call her niece that day. Her mask is not perfect and slips. Olivia is pulled from the tank and to maintain her cover says,
It didn't work. Nothing happened. All I saw was black.
I don't believe you.
Episode 6, 6955KHZ. We're back on the other side, and we get a Fringe concept. We watch as a group of people are looking into strange radio signals and start losing their memory. Peter and Olivia continue their relationship, and we see a couple more cracks in her cover. Peter got them tickets to see U2 in concert, and I am so disappointed to hear they have terrible taste in music, both of them.
It is so gross and distracting.
Peter also continues to work on the machine, and it pisses Walter off.
You might as well be building a nuclear bomb in my lab.
I don't think that's entirely fair, do you?
Fine. If you end up breaking the universe, this time it's on your head.
I agree with Walter 100% on this. Peter, stop trying to assemble the universe-destroying machine. That seems like a rather bad idea.
Not a great plan.
Anyway, it turns out the people who were messing with the radio signals and had their memories erased were working on a mysterious code that's been broadcast since before man even invented the radio. Apparently, it was the first thing heard on a radio. And it could be related to the first people to evolve on Earth, before even the dinosaurs. That is right, we're getting an ancient super race plot line. God damn it, Fringe. This is the first of the cracks. Back in the things I do love, though, I have to admit, Folivia is a great Fringe agent. She doesn't need her tassel team's fancy devices and the better funding they have on the other side. She manages to hold her own because, you know, she's still Olivia, and Olivia kicks ass. Interestingly, though, this avenue into exploring the first people isn't something the other universe wants our Fringe team to be investigating, because it can give them answers to mysteries that the other side knows, and that's where the attack came from. Another shapeshifter from the other side deploying a device to try and stop people gaining this knowledge. Our team is able to track down who exactly is launching these attacks right when Folivia is visiting this shapeshifter, which means she has to improvise. And here's how that goes.
Olivia's already here.
Splat.
Olivia, oh, thank God you're all right. What happened?
He came at me. I had no choice.
But you're all right.
Yeah, I'm all right, but he was coming out as I got here, and...
But you were all right.
Liar, liar, plants for hire.
You psycho. Like, you're not evil. You're doing things you, like, have to do in the moment. But you definitely are. Like, I struggle with her so much. Folivia, you'll understand in later seasons, if we get to the season 4 video, why I struggle, because the show reframes Folivia like 3 times. And here, like, is she unforgivably evil? It feels like it. Now, back at the lab, Astrid is still investigating the broadcast signal that these people were looking into. And she solves what this broadcast is, because don't you forget it, Astrid's amazing.
It's a coordinate system. These numbers indicate locations. Latitude and longitude. 35 degrees and 40 minutes south by 58 degrees and 40 minutes west. It's just outside Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Astrid just proved the existence of a race of ancient people. I don't like the whole kind of conspiracy angle feeling of this related to like a bunch of real life conspiracies now, but Astrid just made the biggest scientific discovery, or like the most important one of the 20th, 21st, whatever century. Holy crap, it turns out the signal was coordinates to all of the parts of the machine scattered on Earth on this side. That's right, the universe-destroying weapons were left by ancient humans, the first people. It's the worst storyline in all of Fringe. Even worse than season 5 in my opinion.
If you knew that only one of our worlds could survive, and if it was up to you and you alone to defend your side, you'd have no choice, right?
There are billions of innocent people over there. Just like you. People with jobs, families, lives. I gotta believe there's another way.
Someone is feeling guilty about their role in the war. The episode ends with Walter giving in and admitting they need to build the weapon. No! Why? Don't build the universe destroyer!
What in the sweet hells were you thinking? Activating that lot? I was right there!
Then we jump back to the other universe and see Olivia is being told she won't be able to jump in the tank again. They have what they need. Episode 7, The Abducted. This episode begins with, well?
No monsters here. None there either. Looks like your room is officially monster-free tonight, kiddo. I love you.
Sorry.
And in my opinion, this is probably the best episode we get in the other universe, and in no small part is that due to this being a Simmers episode, and that means it's a Broyles episode, and that means it's a Lance Reddick heavy episode, which means it's great.
Facts are facts.
So it turns out there is a long active serial killer on this side who targets kids. He doesn't kill them and instead is giving them cancer and other horrible illnesses to do something to himself. I literally cannot think of something more evil than that right now. Jesus Christ. It turns out one of his victims was Simmers' son. I know. More on that later, but yes, Broyles in this universe, Simmers is still married to his wife because, well, his son was a victim of a serial killer, and so they still stayed bonded over that, and it wasn't like back in our universe where a case drove Broyles from his wife, and in fact they seemed closer because of it. Olivia, now knowing she is not from here, is working on a plan to get home. She reaches out to the cab driver she kept hostage and gets him to agree to help her try and break back into Liberty Island without being detected. Turns out his cousin has a small fishing boat. This is the most ride or die hostage I have ever seen in anything ever. He's not even still under the Stockholm syndrome of oh yeah, you're holding me hostage. This is weeks later and the guy's yeah, I'll do it.
Ride or die.
To maintain her cover though, Olivia joins the Tassel team in investigating this latest of the serial killer's kidnappings. It's kind of neat to follow an episode on this side where we have so much invested in catching a killer effectively immediately. Someone going after kids and has previously harmed the kid of a character we care about because he is clearly a reflection of a character we care about in the other universe, and it's somehow still landing is very impressive. And as a result, it's very believable that Olivia does genuinely want to help and catch this killer. She does want to solve this case. It might not be her universe, but it doesn't matter what universe you're in. If you find Ted Bundy, you want to stop Ted Bundy. The reason I'm saying serial killer is I think some of the kids did end up dying, and so it's he's a serial, just don't want to be mad about that. He's abducting children. Let's just say he's a serial killer because he's harming kids and some of them die. This is a serial killer, right? I don't want to call him a serial abductor and make life worsener. He's a serial killer. Yeah. As a part of Olivia being involved with this case though, she wants to re-interview Simmers' son, sorry. Because of drama, Simmers doesn't want her to do this, but eventually agrees after talking with his wife about it. And during all of this, Simmers gets some good news.
You'll be happy to hear that you'll have your team back together soon. Now, Olivia's mission on the other side is almost complete, and we'll be able to bring her home.
What about this Olivia?
We're going to pull her out of the field tomorrow morning. I don't believe we'll be needing her anymore.
Do you see the conflict they're setting up there? Because it's amazingly effective for being set up relatively quickly with the amount of screen time we're having in the other universe. Also, shout out to the child actor of Simmers' son. Dude does a sensational job.
He said this time he hurt my mom.
That is not going to happen. I promise.
I remember their voices. They both said the same thing. I think it was a prayer.
Can you remember the words?
Some of the words. Through the pitch dark comes a cleansing fire.
I always want to give mad props to child actors who do a really, really good job and totally nailed it. Through that prayer, they're able to find out who the killer is. And this leads to the intense showdown with Olivia and the serial killer.
Max, hi. I'm with the FBI. Are you okay? Okay. Oh.
Now, it seems like things are tied up and Olivia's gonna be able to go across the harbor. But just as she's about to do so, she has a realization. The killer had a partner, and it was a priest they talked to about the case.
Dear God.
Well, Christopher was right all along. There really were two suspects.
I told Reverend Marcus Chris could ID the voices he heard, and now my wife isn't picking up the phone.
Okay, I'll meet you at your house.
Simmers' son is in danger. And of course, because Olivia is a great person, She abandons the cab driver at the harbor and goes back to Simmers' house to make sure the kid who's being hunted by a serial killer is okay. And of course, we cut to Simmers' son and see she was right.
Chris! That's it, son.
After Simmers saves his own kid, Olivia arrives and even goes with them to the hospital to make sure Simmers' son is okay. Then something bad happens.
What's FBI?
FBI? Where'd you hear that?
Well, you said it when you saved me. Remember? You said you were FBI.
Oh. FBI is just another word for police.
Well, then when I grow up, I want to be FBI too.
That'd be nice.
Donovan. The FBI ceased to exist over a decade ago. At least on this side it did.
Oh, I screwed up big time.
Simmers isn't going to turn her in, because of course not. She just showed up to help save his child, and it doesn't matter what Olivia she is. Olivia makes it back to her boat and gets across the island. After breaking into the lab, she's actually able to get back to her universe. In a moment of huge relief, we see Olivia stumble around the Liberty gift shop, but oh no.
No. Please, this can't be happening. I'm not gonna hurt you. I need you to listen very carefully. What I'm gonna say is gonna sound insane, but I need you to do something for me.
Olivia, go for a phone and call Peter. Or, okay, well, I guess yelling at this stranger could get your message across. From the editing, it seems like she didn't have time and just vanished in front of this cleaning lady. But back in our universe, things are about to go down.
Is this Peter Bishop?
Yes.
I'm calling from New York. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I just saw a woman disappear in front of my eyes.
Who is this?
Her name was Olivia. She has a message for you. She's trapped in the other universe.
How would this woman have Peter's number? Well, Olivia has an eidetic memory. Of course she has Peter's number memorized. And Peter's seen Folivia struggle to remember things at times. The realization hits, you've been sharing your bed with a stranger. I didn't bring this up the first time Olivia jumped back in the tank, but the fact that she called a child when she was in the other universe, I know she wanted to confirm, but wouldn't have also confirmed to call Peter and say, hey, this is Olivia. I think maybe I'm in the other universe still, kinda. Can we, call Peter. I get the emotional resonance and beat, and it's the right call from a writing perspective to have her call her niece because other things are set up, but the logical part of my brain was call someone else. Call anyone but an actual child, which she did now. No, she yelled at a cleaning lady who then called someone. I get it. We're fine. We don't need to apply logic to everything. Also, that poor cleaning lady, she just fully got told another universe exists and that our government in some way, I guess, is messing with it, or some agency of some kind is, and she's just gotta go back to her life and act like she didn't see that. Episode 8, Entrada. Did she hear? Is he safe? He doesn't know. We see Peter waits for hours, waiting for the murderer in his bed to go to sleep. Slowly, he gets out of bed. Peter searches Olivia's desk, looking for something to confirm the horror he's just been told. He checks her very nice Apple product, that's not placement, don't worry about it, making sure to verify if Olivia is still in bed.
What you doing?
Sending an email.
At 2:15?
Well, it's not 2:15 in Greece. Thought I'd catch up with a friend in Corinth.
You got a friend in Corinth?
Yeah. And like he always says, Naine kalitero anthropo apoton petero tu.
What does it mean?
It means be a better man than your father.
Peter knows he's in danger and goes for a gun. It's not where it was left. Folivia already has it.
I failed the test, didn't I?
But what did it mean? The Greek phrase.
It meant exactly what I said it meant. But it was Olivia who said it to me.
Olivia requests extraction from the other side, revealing her cover is blown. The team is at Peter's apartment the next day, the truth being revealed to all. They know Olivia needs their help. The personal angle to all of this has now become an issue for the entire Fringe team. Peter reveals to Broyles he and Olivia have been in a relationship.
In the 70s, I innocently wandered into the wrong home, and it was 3 days before I realized my mistake. And unlike Olivia, the woman with whom I was sharing a bed didn't look like my wife at all.
And again, the episode actually does handle this surprisingly well, in my opinion. It's not directly addressed because I think at the time you couldn't address this stuff super directly on broadcast television, but Peter is treated like a victim. No dumb jokes are made, and above anything else, Peter is clearly pissed and afraid. Several long shots in this episode show Peter in what seems to be just a traumatized, frozen state, especially for the time this is from. Good job, Fringe. I'm proud of you for handling it like this in the moment. Then we get something super haunting. Back in the other universe, Walternate is meeting with his science cronies, and they realize they need to trade Olivia to get their version of her back because the mass has to be the exact same. I know that doesn't make total sense because they move with clothes and stuff, and the show is aware of it too, because this is also abandoned at times. It's like specifically for their way of jumping, they need to match masses exactly, but they don't even do that in this episode, so kind of just like ignore that, because Fringe sure does.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Importantly though, from this scene, one disturbing question is asked.
How do you want to send back their Olivia, alive or dead? Because I feel there are very valuable parts for study, and I would just have to replace their mass.
I know it's war, but damn, dude.
Not cool, dude.
This is underscored as Simmers is leaving the island. He sees Olivia being transported, and anyone would be upset by this.
No, please, no! Please help me! Let me go again!
This is going where you suspect it is, and in my opinion, it's one of the strongest moments for this whole season. It's obvious, but obvious isn't always a bad thing, and I personally was made very successfully to care about these characters in this conflict. Back in our universe, everyone is hunting Olivia and working on a way to get Olivia back. Walter gets the greatest line in Fringe history, debatably science fiction, maybe in fiction history.
Dr. Bishop, any thoughts on how she would cross to the other side?
No, nothing. And I have no idea how to bring our Olivia back. It's all because of that temptress. She tricked my son with her carnal manipulations, and he fell right into her agenda.
Agenda?
Like Mata Hari using her feminine wiles to accomplish her evil ends. And I too fell prey. She used my stomach to get through to my heart.
To make things worse, Olivia also, in her escape, stole a piece of the machine on this side that their machine on the other side is missing. She's heading home with what she needs to possibly destroy our universe. The team manages to track her down at Penn Station before she's able to make the leap, and this results in a hostage situation. And Peter handles the hostage situation.
My God, Mom! Mom!
Don't you make me kill her!
What's your daughter's name? Your daughter's name, what is it?
Peter, good call. Also right up there with Olivia shooting a cop in the head last season because she had a suspicion it was a shapeshifter. Right, same level. This person could have just been panicked and not sure if they should give up the identity of their daughter, and Peter's just like, good enough. Olivia is arrested and tries to do the whole, this was more than just a cover thing on Peter, but my dude is having none of it. He's having a little bit of it, but he doesn't believe her. He even manages to find pictures of him and Olivia together in her bag. She was planning on taking photos of him back with her because Fringe wants to take this to the worst degree possible. She also forgot she had a boyfriend. Don't worry about that.
Well, Danny kind of forgot about
the Iron Fleet.
Universe jumping noise! Ha! The surgery on Olivia is about to begin without her even being unconscious. Then...
Excuse me. You're not allowed to be...
We don't have much time. We have to get out of here.
I love that they put Simmers in a nurse's outfit so goddamn much. He is in a nurse's outfit to break into this room looking like this is straight up like in Hitman when you put on a disguise and you're like, that's clearly still a hitman, but everyone just believes it, I guess. And the best part is in the next scene, he is not in this outfit. That is 100% people on set being like, we could put Lance Reddick in a nurse's, you don't put Lance Reddick in a nurse, we're gonna put Lance Reddick in a nurse's outfit. They manage to break into the lab, Olivia ready to try and cross over one more time. This time, she also finds what Walternet has been working on, a stash of cortexipam. But no, the tank is empty. There is no deprivation tank for her to get in. That means Simmers and Olivia need to break free from Liberty Island and head to Boston, which they managed to do with surprising ease. Broyles and Olivia have arrived at Harvard and Walter's old lab in the other universe. They have the time to fill the tank and get ready to make the jump again. Right as she is about to get in, the military catches up to them, and Simmers begins opening fire to give her the time she needs. Back in our universe, Astrid is alone in the lab and hears a noise.
Olivia?
Finally, in season 3, our side gets another victory against the other universe. After season and season of loss, we are able to pull out a W and get our Olivia back. It is the first just total victory for our universe, in my opinion. The problem, though, is Walter notices something's wrong with Olivia. She's been successfully injected with the technology they use to send stuff from one side to the other, and they just need the proper amount of mass to replace her. She can still be brought back to the other universe, and she is.
Broyles, stop. I don't think you want to see this.
That's right, they took Broyles' corpse, chopped it up, and then sent it in Olivia's place. Now, let's talk about that Broyles dummy they used, because I'm sorry, Fringe has had an amazing track record of visual effects for when it came out. I mean, the clear skin in episode 1, so many explosions that haven't looked terrible, and you get a f***ing Macy's dummy. What is that? That's a Fringe event in itself. Getting serious though for a moment, yeah, we're also watching the other universe take their Broyles, a man who we were deliberately shown has a family and a child that needs him, and they mutilate his corpse to get their agent back. I mean, it's kind of understandable that it was the only dead mass you had on hand, but it's not a good look, especially because he was the one who saved our Olive. In both universes, Broyles and Simmers are beacons of what is right and good. The episode ends with universe jumping noise. Olivia back in her universe.
Hey, Liv, check this out. No more pain, no more burns. I'm as good as new. It's like nothing ever happened.
Just like nothing ever happened.
Excuse me, agents. Have you seen Colonel Broyles? He's late to work this morning.
Have you tried calling him?
Yes, I tried calling him at home too, and his wife said that he did not come home last night, and that is very unlike him.
And back in our universe, Olivia wakes in the hospital with Peter there.
You were the only thing that got me through. If it wasn't for you, I would never have made it back.
Episode 9, Marionette, which, yes, is also very much so playing into themes of agency and respecting one's life for thematic reasons, because in this episode, yay, we are straight up getting a Fringe event. The Fringe event at the heart of this episode follows a man who is harvesting organs from people, leaving one man alive with his heart missing, who then soon dies after. Apparently he's injecting them with something we see through an umbrella, which is like a super extra level evil of organ harvesting. Like, organ harvesters are terrible people, I'm sure. To like then take the extra step of you're gonna be alive after I do it, like, just murder me. Something I appreciate about these Fringe events that are happening clearly in the middle of so much larger turmoil for the show as a whole is we're still given quite a bit of time to just sit with this character, this monster, and get to know him, which doesn't make any Fringe event feel disposable. Like, even the weakest Fringe elements are respected by the writers, and I appreciate that. It's a consistency that makes no episode of Fringe feel truly skippable. But after all this is set up, we see Olivia is being debriefed by Broyles for her time on the other side. And I just want to say, damn, it feels good to have Olivia back home and safe. While she is filling Broyles in on her time over there, Broyles tries to put her on leave.
I'm not gonna deny that the last few months haven't taken their toll. But I made a promise to a friend over there, and I swore that I would do everything that I can to heal both worlds. I need to go back to work.
I know this has to be the decision to be made for like the show to continue to happen and like drama and conflict, but personally, no way Broyles would let her be back on the team right now. There is just absolutely no way the character we have been established would let a Fringe agent be in the field after going through all of that. Absolutely not. Even just like a few weeks to make sure the drugs that are trying to swap your identity don't have some like latent effect, which is something we've seen from drugs in Fringe before. Just no. Now, continuing the bigger plot lines here, Peter is clearly in a very peculiar position, and the show fumbles it a bit, but not completely. He has to and will tell Olivia what happened, but that's not an easy thing to do, so he's delaying. Peter, don't delay. Walter, of course, known for respecting boundaries, has this to say on the matter.
I understand how difficult it is to be candid with people that you care about, particularly when it concerns matters that are intimate in nature.
Ready to go?
Yes, I am. And by intimate, I mean sexual.
Yeah, I got that.
I want to give Peter credit up till now. He shouldn't have like told her when she's waking up in the hospital. And it seems like he knows the longer he waits, the worse it's going to be. Right now, though, they're at work, so the discomfort continues. As for Olivia, she isn't good for duty. No one would be. Her life was stolen. She was tortured and brainwashed. But in line with her character, duty over everything for Olivia. That has always been her #1 priority. It is not the right call, but it is the Olivia call. A frustrating thing is you also know, like, Olivia would know that if it was anyone else. But like for so many of us, self-reflection can be a big blind spot. Now, this situation would go from bad to worse if Peter kept everything a secret for several episodes. Fortunately, he owns up to it at the first opportunity.
There's something that I have to talk to you about. About her. I noticed changes. Small changes, but they were definitely there. She said that when she was over there, when she saw her other life, it made her want to change, to be happier. And I believed her because that made sense.
There was no way for you to know. Everything happened so fast, I couldn't even tell you how they did it. No, it's okay.
When you asked me to come back to this world with you, you said...
that you belonged with me.
And so I came back for you. For us. And we started seeing each other. I thought she was you, Olivia.
Does everyone know?
I reported everything when I found out who she was. Olivia, I'm sorry.
You know, she had a really full life. Really sweet boyfriend. And if he hadn't been out of town, then who knows what could happen. She had friends, people who loved her, people who risked their lives to help her. They all believed that I was her. So, you know, I can understand how that...
Mr. Bishop, Dr. Ross is out of surgery.
Could you give us a second, please? Sure. Thank you.
Peter, it's fine. We're good. Let's go.
Here's where I kind of started to shift more on Peter in the whole view of Fringe as a show, because this is a huge moment for him. Peter's a good man. That's not easy to own up to so bluntly. And he did not hide anything or hold it back because he respects and loves Olivia. Olivia didn't handle it perfectly. That hurt on her face is brutal. Someone who is so rarely able to put down their walls came home expecting to find a lover and instead found that had been stolen from them as well. Peter has already experienced a twisted version of what Olivia wanted. For any writers paying attention, this is how you hurt characters with larger concepts. It's a perfect trajectory down from here's a big science fiction idea of the multiverse coming down with pinpoint precision to impact right at a crucial moment in a relationship between two characters we as viewers love and act as a nuclear warhead. Even the smaller details of character blocking for me are absolutely present. Olivia nearly leaps up from the table and walks off as soon as she can, while Peter is slower to rise, being left behind. He wants to continue the conversation, but again, this is brand new for Olivia. She's not ready. This season, if you can't tell, is going to explore the extent of which this trauma can harm someone and test if Olivia is really ready to take on a whole new way this job can decimate her life. I will say one criticism I have for the show, and almost for Olivia as well, but I understand her mind just can't be there right now. From here on out, Peter is not treated like a victim anymore, just very sad about what happened.
How did she react?
Surprisingly well.
Really? Do you think possibly they replaced her with a robot?
Olivia herself has a bit of a breakdown after this. Walking through her own apartment after a long day of work, she keeps finding evidence of faux Olivia being there. This is science fiction drama done magnificently. This culminates in Olivia honestly kind of crossing some lines. She certainly puts Astrid on the spot the next day.
You saw them together. What was he like with her?
Anyway, back to the Fringe case at the heart of this episode, tracking this killer, and it's eventually tied back to rediscovered research from none other than Walter and Belle. And what it feels like to be back in a comfy, cozy spot for Fringe. Walter's research somehow rediscovered and used for horrific effect? That's Fringe, baby! It turns out the creepy organ guy is stealing or taking specific donated organs from a woman he used to stalk, and he is now reassembling her. You know, some people have hobbies like gardening. Yeah, this dancer died and she was an organ donor, so this man's trying to reassemble her organ donation. And the level of violation in that. She didn't like you, she didn't know you, she didn't want you, you were just obsessed with her, and now you are forcing her to dance for you because you liked her as a dancer, even in death. Fringe team manages to track this creep down right after he's made his Frankenstein creation. We all know Fringe was gonna do a Frankenstein thing at some point, and this execution I'll give like a 7 out of 10. It's hard to do a Frankenstein thing that feels new and original, and I don't think this does, but it does tie in really well to what the show's working with, so I give it credit for that. Getting back to why we're all here though, Peter and Olivia finally have a bit of a conflict due to what happened or hasn't happened between them.
When I was over there, I thought about you, and you were just a figment of my imagination. And I held on to you, and it wasn't reasonable and it wasn't logical, but I did it, so why didn't you? She wasn't me. How could you not see that? Now she's everywhere. She's in my house, my job, my bed, and I don't want to wear my clothes anymore, and I don't want to live in my apartment, and I don't want to be with you. She's taken everything.
I do believe it's the right call for Olivia's character. This is her reclaiming her life and agency. It isn't necessarily logical or right, but in a real unfair way, Peter failed her. I'm not saying that Peter should have known, but there is that illogical part of Olivia's brain that is valid and is allowed to be justified of, you were my point of hope, but it turns out you weren't waiting for me. Again, not logical, not fair, but human and valid. I would argue this isn't even necessarily entirely about Peter himself. It's about purging her life of the person who stole it. Olivia is strong, but she's human. So much of character writing is based on realistic responses, not minimizing the trauma or cheaply saying their love is somehow just stronger. As upsetting as it may be, even the shockwaves after traumatic events can be traumatizing themselves, even if we never did anything wrong in the first place. The episode ends with an observer watching Walter. Because we need some more beautiful baldies this season. Oh! And it's time for episode 10, The Firefly.
Walter?
Peter, you're up early?
Oh no, I'm still asleep upstairs in my bed. You're just talking to an astral projection of me.
You're just saying that to see if I'm high.
What are you doing, Walter?
I'm making myself smarter.
Really?
Just gonna say it, this episode, flawless. And I'm happy to say in this episode we have a guest star that I absolutely adore and think is so cool that he's here. His utilization is not phenomenal, but hey, I'm just glad that we have Doc Brown Christopher freaking Lloyd showing up. Hell yeah. You see, Mr. Lloyd here is seeing his dead son, which isn't a normal hallucination because some nurses also saw him on a security camera. The division told Doc Brown here to talk to Walter, and we later see an observer is taking this man's dead son back to wherever the observer grabbed him from. It's not an illusion. In this episode, the development of the Olivia Peter situation is not nice because we see Olivia is sent a book by Peter, except of course he sent this days ago and it was meant for Olivia. And this results in a speech from Olivia you feel in your gut.
The book wasn't meant for her. It was meant for the Olivia Dunham that I've spent the last couple of years of my life with. Because I wanted you to read it. You're the person I wanted to share it with.
You know, I feel like Rip Van Winkle. Everything is different. Even you opening up to me is different.
Even you opening up to me is different. That hits hard. And that's what I mean by I don't even necessarily think this is entirely about Peter as an individual. It's about the fact that he's further in a relationship that Olivia can't just artificially catch up to. Summing up this episode though, because the runtime of this video is already getting long, it turns out the observers are doing this to set up a situation where Walter has to sacrifice Peter to save someone else. It's not real though, and purely to see if Walter has changed as a man. He passes the test.
The reasoning is a little bit convoluted. It's difficult to explain.
Overall, the conflict in this episode is handled okay for like the fringe element of it, but it's the larger implications of the observers doing something so directly that implies so much dread to come that I think makes this episode work. This does take us to episode 11 though, Reciprocity. Things are coming to a head because we see Massive Dynamic has nearly finished assembling the universe-destroying machine. They just need a power source. Also, Walter comes up with the name Folivia at the 2-minute mark.
I understand you broke the encryption on the computer the other Olivia left behind.
A few days ago, Peter gave us a number of password suggestions. One worked.
Oh?
It's a song lyric. Olivia ruined you two for all of us.
Folivia?
That's what Walter's calling her now. Folivia, as in fake Olivia.
Attention, people of Bikini Bottom! You have been cheated and lied to!
I knew it!
Now, we do get our first look at our universe's assembled machine, and it just looks so bad. The ancient machine angle for me just does not work for Fringe at all, especially because they keep doubling down on the Peter being Peter Skywalker chosen one, and that is an angle to Joshua Jackson's performance that just never clicks. That is never going to be successful here. And I'm going to make a case at the end of the season that you could remove this rather large element from the narrative and still get all of the highs of the Olivia and Peter conflict, as well as the universe colliding mega stakes. Anyway, Peter gets near the machine and it starts to turn on. We do get a Fringe event this episode of a shapeshifter found dead in a fountain. With the team having just cracked Folivia's hard drive, they piece together that there must be a mole somewhere who is cleaning house. Someone trying to get rid of any shapeshifter they might be able to get their hands on still left on this side. It turns out to be a doctor who's a total villain of the week this episode and has been running tests on Peter and having conflict with Walter, who's worried about Peter having these tests run on him. The best moment though from this episode comes when Olivia finally takes a beat to really process what was done to Peter as well.
I owe you an apology.
For what?
The last few weeks have been really hard for me. I've been so focused on what the other Olivia did to me that I just haven't thought about what she did to you.
Okay, Olivia.
And I want you to know that I'm sorry and that I get it now. The good news is that she's gone. I know it doesn't feel like that at the moment, but she is gone. And, we can get past it.
I do want to point out though, Fringe has a habit of ending scenes with phone calls, and it really started to bug me this time through season 3. I'm gonna have a small montage put in right here and now of just scenes in just season 3, ending with phone calls.
Dunham.
Hello?
Dunham.
Code.
Put me through to the Rosendale Eye Bank.
I called Broyles. Let him know we're on the way to talk to the family.
Broyles.
Need a phone.
Walter, I don't think the doctor was...
Hey, it's me.
You should answer your phone.
I felt his...
God, Dunham, can you hold on, please? I'm so sorry, Walter.
Do you know it's customary to leave one message and the caller will get back to you, not 30?
Back to the plot though, it's revealed who is killing these shapeshifters, and while that doctor was a mole, the killer is Peter. Walter catches Peter on a revenge spree. Not a healthy way to process what was done to you, bro. This is where we start to see some of Peter's darker character traits from his criminal past come back into play here, and I didn't pick up on that before, but I think that's what the show is clearly trying to invoke, and I'll give it credit that I didn't in my season 1 and 2 video. The conflict of Peter going on a killing spree though is not resolved this episode, and instead, we get this monologue from Walter that I don't necessarily agree with.
I think I know what's happening to you. Every relationship is reciprocal, Peter. When you touch something, it touches you. You're changing, son. When you touched the machine, it changed you. It weaponized you.
So what do we do now, Walter?
I don't know.
Feels like a reach to me, Doc. Episode 12. Concentrate and ask again. The initiating Fringe event happens at an office party where...
was gross.
Okay, Fringe, in terms of the Fringification, has still got it. Dude was just deboned. In these episodes, we see a lot of Peter and Olivia kind of trying to fix things and be friends, maybe more, and just exploring being around each other again. There's bad moments, like when Peter accidentally gets faux Olivia's coffee. But there's also a lot of good moments here too, and especially with them working together. These two work great together, and it becomes like a new foundation for them to find that same comfort they found with each other before.
Why would anyone kill a scientist? What did we ever do?
I feel nauseated.
Yeah, this is pretty disgusting, even by our standards.
I'm not talking about the body. I fear I may have broken wind inside my suit.
But in terms of addressing this Fringe event, the team finds out that there's a terrorist who's former military.
He's here!
Freeze! Freeze, FBI!
He is now in a coma, but he had partners, so the case isn't dead. Now I know what you're thinking. That guy being in a coma should not stop Walter from getting the information he needs in any way, shape, or form. But for some reason, despite Walter having gotten information from dead people before, this guy's brain, I guess, is so comaed Walter can't get it, and instead, Walter decides to track down a former Cortexiphan patient who can read minds who we haven't heard of before because he was kicked out of the camp early. Another, I feel like, weaker thing the show's just kind of shoving in here, but the character actually does serve a really good purpose in this episode, so I'll take it.
Oh, look! Punch buggy!
In line with the uncontrolled powers Walter inflicted on people, this man who can read minds is living in severe isolation. Walter tries to track him down on his own. Walter, please don't try and track down children you abused without backup and/or warning the people that you are coming because you're their abuser.
How come I can't hear you? Why can't I read you?
She's another Cortexiphan subject. Sometimes you children are immune to each other's abilities.
How many more, Walter? How many more are going to come crawling out of the woodwork?
But the plan works. Our team wins, stopping a larger attack, and Olivia looks incredible in this dress, and ices some fools in it. The episode ends with Peter getting Olivia the right coffee order, and Nina Sharp finding some in some books that has to do with the pre-dinosaur people, connecting it all to the shrink she sent Olivia to, because apparently he wrote all three of these books, despite these three books being from different cultures and different times in history. I know you're thinking, hey, Fringe is giving me faith that they can land this. No, this does not land.
Whatever frequency Peter's vibrating at will determine how the machine reacts.
What determines Peter's frequency?
It depends on his state of mind, which in turn will depend on who he ends up with. Olivia from here or Olivia from over there. Whichever one he chooses, it'll be her universe that survives.
Don't just stop. I want to make it clear though, this is not so bad that it ruins the whole season, and that's a part of modern criticism that I tend to have an issue with. There can be media that is flawed, but that doesn't mean the entire story, all angles of a story are bad. And it seems like we're in a day and age of criticism where if you're able to find one big fault, the whole thing is dismissed, which I just find to be a bit of an overreaction when it comes to criticism. I'm gonna just say though, I think the reason Peter having this multiverse destroying machine that depends on which love interest he chooses doesn't work for me is it violates the successful rule Fringe often follows of the top down for high sci-fi concept ideas. Something crazy, big, powerful beyond us is happening and it hurts you. Reversing that flow and having an individual choice on like an emotional level have significant ramifications on like a high sci-fi concept idea, it violates some storytelling rule that I don't even know if I stand by. I certainly have seen this done right. It's just in this specific instance for me, it undercuts a lot of stakes for this larger existential eventual universe-ending conflict. But that takes us to episode 13, Immortality. Universe jump! Folivia's boyfriend gets back, and this relationship is so super doomed. She just had a whole other relationship where it seems like she kind of actually liked a guy, so yeah, I'll just go ahead and say they break up this episode, even though he's planning on proposing.
You, keep a secret? Are you kidding me? I have my own, like, cone of silence when it comes to secrets.
12 seconds later.
Frank's gonna ask you to marry him. I'm serious. This weekend, he just told me. I promised I'd keep it a secret, but you know me, I can't keep a secret.
Snitches get stitches.
Though I will say, he gets to help with a Fringe event on this side, because he is someone who does like pandemic response. Because we see at this airbase, a man is drugged in his drink and then spews up a whole bunch of bugs. It's absolutely horrifying. This is a rather weak Fringe element though. It feels like something we've tread before, and it's not super relevant to the wider plot, because what is important here is the next conflict with our universe being set up. Because we see that the larger Tassel team does not know what happened to Simmers. He's just labeled missing. Agent Lee, the member of the Tassel team who doesn't yet have a twin on our side, is promoted to Simmers' position. They visit a bug expert, and this introduces a love interest for Charlatan, who is unfortunately then just written out of the show before too long. And that means Charlie is taken away from me once again.
And maybe it's all gone, but baby, all I want is one more chance to remind you when I wear your t-shirt.
Olivia ends up getting infected by the bug stuff, and Tassel team threatens the guy to get the cure after they track him down. Turns out she isn't infected though, and instead is just experiencing morning sickness. Remember how she agreed to marry this guy after being gone for a few weeks? It's not his baby.
If you want your friend to live, put down the gun and do exactly as I say.
So yeah, if you thought things couldn't get worse for Peter and Olivia back in our universe, especially right as they're starting to maybe kind of be friends and everything again, Peter, you're gonna have a kid.
How long have you been pregnant?
6 weeks.
Are you in love with him? The father? That's all I needed to know.
I noticed this on my third watch, and it made so much of this hit all the harder. Folivia is doing this on Walter's orders and is being experimented on by him still. Olivia in both universes is a Walter test patient. And to emphasize this, guess who shows up?
Don't worry. Your position with Fringe Division will remain intact. You'll have whatever resources you need. After all, you are the mother of my future grandchild.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
But that takes us to episode 14, 6B. The Fringe element here is a ghost. An old person super still in love with their late significant other is seeing their significant other still alive in the other universe. The old woman is dead in the other universe, and the old man is dead in our universe, but their love is so strong that they're tearing through the fabric of reality and seeing each other.
It's true love!
Whoa! The Fringe team has to make them let go of each other because the universes around their mourning is starting to merge. It's weird, but kind of sweet. Weaker episode, but still enjoyable. If you're wondering about the whole mourning thing and how that's kind of wrapped up, it's funny on paper. I didn't laugh while it's happening on screen, but essentially Olivia and Peter need to talk an old woman out of loving her dead husband.
Now, I know this sounds insane, but all those people that fell from the balcony, they all died because you two couldn't let go of each other. All of this is happening because of you, and you can stop it if you just let go of him.
Yes, it's her realizing it's not really her husband that does it, but at the same time, they're just like, it's him, but it's not. Don't love him.
I know you love me, Mako, but you gotta stop loving me or more people are gonna die. I'm not really Daniel. I'm Green Daniel.
Plus, Walter makes pancakes at one point in an attempt to force a date between Peter and Olivia.
What's the occasion, Walter?
Well, nothing special. Quiet for the past couple of weeks, no new cases, and somehow that is translated into never seeing Olivia, and I, for one, miss her.
Any reason why you didn't mention this to me last night?
Oh, would you believe it slipped my mind?
No, I would not.
Oh, there's something you see.
He wants us to spend time together.
The three of us.
No, just the two. Walter!
This leads to a confrontation between Olivia and Peter, and
since we're here, we might as well take advantage of the situation and just talk about what's bothering you.
I don't really know what to say. I know that you still think about her. I know you had feelings for her, and that you still do, and frankly, I don't think you've been completely honest with me.
Well, you're right. I mean, I haven't told you everything. Mostly because I didn't think that you...
That I could handle it?
I know that you struggle with trust issues, that you have a difficult time letting people in.
Well, I'm struggling because the reasons are real. I'm not making them up.
I know. I never wanted to be one of the reasons. And I still think about her because I spent so long imagining going down that path with you, imagining what it would be like to wake up in a bed next to you, to sit around, just the two of us, having a cup of coffee, reading the paper.
And then finally, I had it.
I've seen what the two of us together looks like, and it's beautiful.
Peter, she's the one that took it away from us, not me.
Who's the one stopping us now?
he's wrong, but again, he's experiencing a really strange heartbreak as well. Like, Olivia is his love. He wants to be with her, and yeah, I get both. It's good character work on both sides. There's no easy fix here, and boy, oh boy, wait for him to find out Folivia's preggers. If it's a boy, they should name it Walter Jr.
Am I glowing?
No.
What I find funny is looming over all of this relationship drama is the actual end of the universe. Like, it's kind of easy to forget that at times in Fringe, but the world and beyond are about to end, and still these two in love are struggling to find a connection that they both need. It's the most human ever. And this takes us to episode 15, subject 13. Fair warning, one of my least favorite episodes this season, because we start back in time, seeing Peter's mother find a note from Peter saying he's going home. It's Peter post-Peter napping, and Peter napped Peter is trying to break through the ice of Raiden Lake, thinking this might take him back to his universe. That's right, they had to brainwash this Peter eventually into believing that this universe is his. The kid looks old enough that I don't know if he should ever really forget all this, as we saw Peter in the first season kinda did, but it's a plot-ish hole, but not really. You can wave it away. The show does not address. But yes, it is 1985, which means we get the 85 opener, my favorite. Go! In And this episode as a whole is not super relevant to the larger plot. It's just trying to set a couple of things up to like redouble down on the Olivia Peter meant to be together angle. It's a thing. These events though are occurring at the same time that Walter is experimenting on Olivia and other children, and Peter ends up meeting Olivia. And the big conclusion here is that partially Peter accepts being in this universe because he liked Olivia so much. I'm not really okay with that. He doesn't remember meeting her, but she's part of why he made that decision that changed his life forever. Young Olivia also tells Walter that her stepdad beats her, and to escape out of her own control, she ends up jumping to another universe. Jesus, that's dark. And watch how this goes down.
My stepfather did this. He hits me. That's when I crossed over to the other universe. Look. That's where I saw the blimps. Just like you said. They were in the sky in the other universe. Can you make him stop hitting me? Please.
Olive? Baby, what is it? What's wrong?
That's right. It may be not my favorite Fringe episode, but this is one development from this episode I love. We learn how Walternate found out his son was stolen by a Walter in another universe, and it was watching a little girl from our universe run into his office and basically tell him that. Damn good detail. That worked. That one's good. Walternate on our side does hear this though and steps in and threatens Olivia's abusive stepfather. And if there's one person who can threaten the shit out of someone, it's probably the man who ripped a hole in reality.
I want you to understand that this girl is very special to me. And if anything harmful should happen to her, anything to frighten her or make her uncomfortable in the least, I will not hesitate to inform social services. In which case, I have certain government friends who can ensure that you will be facing significant troubles for yourself. Do you understand me?
Outside of the meta of this, you cannot solve child abuse with one threat, and you should absolutely call social services, in my opinion. And I also don't like how much this episode is trying to frame the Walter who is actively experimenting on children in ways that we know from previous seasons resulted in like staffers' deaths as like a actually kind of good guy. I wish they had doubled down on Walter still being really evil during this time. More importantly though, can I get some Fringe concepts? Episode 16, OS. Now I know what you're thinking. I know what's been on your mind all season. What has Walter been doing as the CEO of Massive Dynamic?
I didn't realize until later. I woke up, and there she was in my bed. Yoko.
What did he say?
It was the 70s. What could he say?
Well, he's smoking weed with Hurley from Lost, who was hired as the security guard. Fortunately, we also get a Fringe event here that involves burglars who can float, and I like how they're introduced.
God.
The whole like, oh, they're climbing up. No, they're climbing down. It's a dumb gimmick for floating characters that works every single time. And seeing them just drift up like balloons after they're shot, How playful, delightful. These burglars are people who were previously suffering from a disease a mad scientist has been taking advantage of to help them get more of the drug he's using to be able to help them float. Why? Because he loves his son very much, and his son is suffering from the same disease that makes all these people normally bound to a wheelchair. Fringe arrests the mad scientist, who's, yes, played by an actor who you might recognize from Succession, and Peter tackles a floating man into an astronaut. Peter, at the end of the episode, finally fesses up to Olivia about his shapeshifter killing spree. But before Olivia can have any problem with this, well, simultaneously we cut back to Walter. Walter has gone into William Bell's office, and he found a bell in Lab's office. And Walter thinks if he rings it, Bell will come back to life. He's still not the most stable guy. And actually, he's right.
I thought maybe Astrid could figure it out, but I didn't want to bring her into this. Running through every code-breaking program that I know, but so far I can't break it.
That's because the decoder key is in my office.
What? At the FBI?
No, at Massive Dynamic. Hello, Peter. It's nice to see you again.
Y'all, we've gotten Olivia. We've gotten faux Olivia. We've even gotten young Olivia and back-in-time noir hypothetical Olivia. But are you ready for Spock Livia? Anna Torv, for the next surprising amount of time, is, yes, going to be doing her best Leonard Nimoy impression. And this takes us to episode 17, Stowaway. We do in this episode get the explanation of what exactly the hell is happening here. Bell was, through science, able to thrust his mind into Olivia from beyond the grave. Nobody but Walter likes this, and everyone is mad. But Spock Livia then helps with a Fringe event, and we also get Broyles being a badass. So still 10 out of 10, no notes.
Even if we were able to transfer your consciousness safely inside you, there are matters to consider.
The Fringe event is of a woman deliberately YouTube demonetizing me, so that's part of the reason we're not getting into this episode super a lot. I cannot have that happen again. But importantly, we do get introduced to our universe's version of Agent Lee. He works for the FBI and is slowly from here brought into the Fringe team. Why? Because that actor is dope and I have no complaints bringing him in here. He's really good.
That's Jean.
This takes us to episode 18. That's right, Jillian, jump it. We're not getting Spock out of Olivia yet, though we're following faux Olivia so we don't get faux Spock Olivia. Faux Olivia is dealing with her pregnancy by getting an abortion. God damn it, Fringe, I want to be monetized. She doesn't, because early 2000s TV would absolutely not do that, but this.
Finally awake.
Now, we've been introduced to Agent Lee on this side first. That does not mean he is not Foley. That is absolutely still Agent Foley, and Agent Lee on our side is still Agent Lee. It's not about who appears first on screen. It's about the universes. So, we see that Agent Foley on this side absolutely does have feelings for Olivia, and he's desperately working to find out who kidnapped her. Folivia is back to being strapped to a table, because Fringe does that a lot. And her baby is being looked at. Folivia has like a genetic thing where it's very unlikely that any baby she does have would be able to come to full term, but whatever they're doing to her here speeds up the pregnancy and makes it so she goes into labor and does give birth to this child within, only a few weeks of being impregnated. As a result of investigating Folivia's kidnapping, though, Walternate deems it appropriate to tell Foley everything that's happened with the swapping of the Olivias, and he learns that she is pregnant with Peter's child. While she is actively giving birth to this spread-up pregnancy, Folivia does manage to break out and call for help. Yeah, I believe Olivia during active labor could kick ass. Of course she could, even her diet version. The Tassel team arrives because she was able to get a call out, and due to investigating what exactly was happening to her when the swap happened, the cab driver is here. But of course, because Folivia never met the cab driver, Agent Foley has it confirmed for him beyond just Walternate's words that this Folivia was not the Olivia he was dealing with for several weeks. Oh, and the Tassel team also puts it together what must have happened to Simmers because he was involved with what Walternate was doing. And the episode ends with us seeing that Walternate was the one who orchestrated the kidnapping to begin with because he found out about Folivia's genetic condition and wanted to make sure the baby would live so he could have access to Peter's genetic material material and make the machine on this side work. Because yes, Peter's the only one whose genetic material can make the machine work, and now they have that.
Arm the weapon.
And Walternate is not above taking a blood sample from his grandchild to make his schemes work. Now, we get inarguably the strangest episode of Fringe, in my opinion, and it works for that reason, and in some ways does not work for that reason. But let's get into it and just have fun, because this is episode 19, LSD. That's an important thing for Fringe, so that's a heck of a promise. And this is the episode where the Spock-Livia is solved. The team has to jump into Olivia's mind, Inception style, which is done in animation, because unfortunately, Leonard Nimoy wasn't well enough to film during this time, but this solution does work. The way they're planning to successfully get William Bell out of there is apparently uploading his consciousness to a very old computer. The best moment, absolutely, from the episode, and why I believe it was called LSD, comes from when Broyles accidentally takes a lot of it.
You're bald. I think he's an observer.
But look at it. The swirl. It's Bernini's spiral altered St. Peter's. It doesn't end. It's infinite. It's all around us.
Hand me those tubes, dear.
Drink cactus juice. It'll quench you. Nothing's quenchier. It's the quenchiest.
Olivia comes back fine from this. It doesn't advance the wider plots, but at the end, the Fringe concept actually ends up being a lot less ridiculous, because Bell tells Olivia one message to give to Walter before he leaves her.
Please, tell Walter that I knew the dog wouldn't hunt.
He's gone. William's gone.
Walter, I think Bell gave me a message. He said, tell Walter that I knew the dog wouldn't hunt.
When we would do experiments, he would use that expression when he knew something wouldn't work.
But he suggested the computer was his idea.
Exactly. He knew he wasn't coming out. And he hates goodbyes.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit too much for even Fringe, and this kind of somber ending takes an episode that I don't think would have worked and makes it, in hindsight, play completely differently. And strangely, this episode ends with Olivia drawing her killer?
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't seen him before. But I think that he's the man who's gonna kill me.
We're not gonna talk about that again yet, so just leave it and move on. Episode 20, 6:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Through the blood sample in episode 18, Walternate is able to recreate Peter's DNA, meaning they can activate their machine. Walternate quotes Oppenheimer, quoting that one thing,
"Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
And we all know because of that, it's about to go down. Back in our world, locusts and other apocalyptic type things are happening. Neat, but bad. And back at Sam's bowling alley, he doesn't like how his balls are tapping. No, I mean that literally. Let's look, this is the footage. The balls are tapping. And then he goes to other balls, and other balls are tapping. And he doesn't like the balls are tapping. Now, the important thing from this episode, do you all want an incredible level of setup and payoff? Like seasons long, brilliant 4D chess. This is why it's the greatest show ever level of setup and payoff. Remember what has been hounding Peter for years? Do you remember what has been, in my opinion, partially contributing to drive him to go on an actual killing spree? You don't remember how much Peter sees his own dad's penis?
Good morning, Olivia. I didn't know you were spending the night. A lovely surprise.
Oh, no, the surprise is all mine.
I am going to pop another mushroom frittata into the oven. I got some morels from the market with the biggest caps you've ever seen.
Sure.
Olivia, you should get some slippers for when you stay over here. This house can get very chilly.
Well, 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 Olivia. How the genitals have turned. In all seriousness, though, we do get some really sweet moments between Peter and Olivia in a brief amount of time here for their relationship actually being allowed to come to fruition, and it works, and it makes me really care about these two going into the worst conflict they have to face as a couple from a writing perspective of all of Fringe. This scene of sweetness is of course ended by a phone call, because Fringe, and the team is brought to the universe machine because it is turning on. They figure out that means the machine on the other side must have been activated. On the other side, energy spikes alert the Tassel team what is happening, so Olivia goes to visit Walternet.
Have you activated that weapon? Is that what's causing the surge?
That's classified.
What's going to happen to the people over there?
My concern is for the people of our world.
But your son is over there.
I'm aware. Peter chose to leave. He chose his allegiance. I chose to give up my son so that you could keep yours.
Yo, Walternet's crazy. Our team is scrambling to find a solution. Peter wants to go into the machine. Walter notes this must be what the observers were preparing him for. They knew this was how things had to end. Walter agrees to help Peter use the machine. You might be a bit confused on like, why do they have to use the machine right now? It's actually pretty straightforward. Peter is the only one who can apparently decide which universe ends. And so Walternet, using genetic material from Peter, is trying to make that decision. Peter wants to step into our machine and decide, no, your universe is the one that goes. It's strange, and it's not going in a great direction in my opinion, but we'll get there. Olivia meets with Foley, and they agree to do something about what Walternet is attempting. They have a fairly romantic moment as Olivia tries her darndest to complete a redemption arc, and she then arrives at the lab and pulls a gun. She tries to force the evil science man to shoot her to the other side, but gets caught. I'm not entirely sure how she was planning on stopping Walternet's plan from jumping to the other side. It's not that important. Let's move on. She's in Walternet's custody, and Foley's taking care of her baby, if you were wondering. On the other side, tearful goodbyes are given, and Peter steps in the machine.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
My guy thought he was gonna save the universe and gets ragdolled into a coma. And here I think we get some of the genuinely undisputed worst writing in all of Fringe. Let's just burn through it. Sam Bowling Alley Weiss pops up and just decides to take Olivia on a side quest. The episode ends with Jillian Jumpet, Walternet, showing us how not like Walter he is.
I don't understand how killing billions of people can possibly be in the interest of the greater good.
It's because you still have the luxury of your ideals. I have to be pragmatic. If we'll be in a difficult position, anyone else would be rotting away in a stockade for treason, but you are the mother of my grandson. You'll stay here for your own good until this is over.
And now, episode 21, The Last Sam Weiss. And now Peter decides to bear the brunt of the terrible writing of this episode because he wakes up and wants to be a part of this nightmare too. Just please don't add anything too stupid, Peter, please.
My name's...
Please. Oh, you lost your memory. You can't remember anything. You don't know your name's Peter. Great. What is even happening right now? This show is jumping a pack of hammerhead sharks, and I'm saying that about a show with imaginary killer butterflies. Anyway, he takes a cab all the way to Liberty Island while the world is falling apart, which I find hilarious because apparently cab drivers in New York are just still in operation during that. That's actually not too unbelievable. For some reason, I feel like that's actually would be happening. At the end of the earth, it's gonna be New York cabs, cockroaches, and Mitch McConnell. And once at Liberty Island, this happens.
Excuse me, you can't be here. We're evacuating the area.
I know, but I have to talk to my father. I have something to show him. It's really important.
And who, out of curiosity, is your father?
Walter Bishop, the Secretary of Defense.
What? So now you know you're Peter, but you think you're a different Peter? Olivia is continuing her adventure with Sam Weiss, the 80th, to get a key from a museum that will allow Peter to use the machine. 'Cause sure, why not? They then run from lightning as the doors in the museum start to lock because of the lightning. It's an antagonist now. And Sam's bowling alley pays off.
It's not working. We're short-circuited by the lightning. We won't make it. Oh my God, Sam.
I work in a bowling alley.
Okay, come on.
We're gonna keep going. Walter figures out they need to physically move their machine to Liberty Island because that is where the other universe's machine is. Olivia meets with Walter back in his lab during this time, and it turns out she is also a chosen one. Yay! She is the key that lets Peter get into the machine. It's part of the whole Peter has to choose an Olivia thing. Because Peter is headed to Liberty Island for some reason, everyone reunites there and then Peter just gets all of his memories back. I'm not kidding. And one last time, Peter gets in the machine, this time with Olivia, and she is able to activate it for him with her telekinetic powers. After one last smooch with Olivia, Peter activates the Ancient Universe Destroyer. Let's talk about, for another reason why I feel like this ending thing isn't really working for me. Earlier Fringe, hell, earlier this season, everything happened with purpose. There was clear cause and effect, and when you needed a bit of a reach, there was well-written sci-fi mumbo-jumbo, often based in real-world science and then fantasticized a bit to motivate the plot. Now, it just feels like, oh no, we've bit off a lot here and we don't know where to go. Peter has amnesia and there's, lightning hitting Walter for reasons, I guess, to set up Walt. It's so just, here's some, maybe I'm being unfair, but it absolutely feels like this ancient machine thing was introduced in a writer's room and they have no idea where to go with it. And if you're thinking, this isn't that crazy, it's not too messy, not too much has been thrown at the wall, the reason I'm extra mad is what happens next. The show then pivots to a whole new timeline, not universe. Now we jump ahead in the future to see what would happen to our universe if Peter chooses to destroy the other universe. And we see an aged up Peter who seems to be in the middle of a war zone because the world's ending. Yeah, our universe is still collapsing. Episode 22. The Day We Died. A woman walks into a scene. She is very young and called Agent Dunham. It is not our Olivia Dunham, and instead it is Olivia's niece. Oh my God, I was totally wrong. She is paying off here in a big way. I like that, cool. And this Dunham is also a Fringe agent because I guess Olivia would be fine with her family member taking on this job that, oh my God, ruined her life. In this future though, Peter and Olivia are happily married. Now we're fighting a group of terrorists called the End of Days, led by this wonderful character actor you're probably gonna recognize from a bunch of things. And in this new timeline, Walter has been locked up because apparently Broyles did not forgive him or enjoy working with him, and the fact that the universe is still falling apart means he needs to be in jail. I really thought we reached a point where Peter would not have been okay with him being locked up again, but he is. The reason Broyles had the authority to just make that unilateral call, though, is it seems he's a senator now. Through fringy investigative things, it turns out that Walternate is working with this End of Days cult, and he's on a revenge mission to try and destroy this universe because Peter destroyed theirs. Apparently, he jumped over to ours before his universe collapsed in a desperate attempt to stop us from destroying their universe.
If I could take back that choice, I would. But it's no excuse for what you're doing now, and it has to stop.
You know, Peter, if I was really there, I might not be able to resist killing you. I think this is the better way so you can learn about loss. Let's start by killing someone you love.
We're going to evacuate the area, try and contain the wormhole. So can you move everyone back to Sector 3?
Now they have Olivia's funeral on the beach and we don't get to hear Peter's eulogy. It's actually just played over with music.
My wife was everything to me.
The trap has spoken.
But of course we're not allowed to hear it, because, you know, this isn't permanent. Well, if it's not permanent, why is so much of the episode devoted to it and asking so heavily for us, the viewer, to be sad? We know this isn't going to last at all. I don't think this works from a writing angle because it's begging for us to be emotionally invested in this conflict for Peter, similarly to how we were for Broyles and his son, in a plot that was actually really thoroughly thought through and given the time to marinate. But this has been less than like, what, 20, 30 minutes in this whole new timeline, and Olivia gets domed by Walternate, which was a powerful moment, and you're waving a big sign telling us it's not going to be permanent, don't worry. At least allow us to see this version of Peter, this possible future's emotional poignancy and depth in a monologue, but no, generic sad music. Later on, Walter randomly realizes he can send Peter back in time to when the other universe was destroyed, and instead of getting rid of it, fix everything.
The machine? I turned that on 15 years ago.
And all the time I sat in prison, I couldn't figure out where it came from. I knew the pieces were buried millions of years ago, but how did they get there? So deep in the past. But now I understand. I sent them there. The wormhole in Central Park. I sent them back through time. Peter, you can stop the destruction before it occurs.
If that's the case, just don't send the machine back.
Then we'll never discover it, and I'll never destroy the other universe.
No. It doesn't work that way. I have already done it. Therefore, I have no choice but to do it again.
Walter, that doesn't make any sense.
It does. It's a paradox. I can't change what happens because it's already happened. But you can make a different choice within what happened. I simply need to find a way to bring your consciousness forward to now so that you can witness what will happen if you make the same choice. Peter, for all I know, it could be happening already. Don't you see? We can fix everything. We can cheat the rolls of time.
Yeah, I think the Sam Weiss thing is dumber, but in terms of being a disservice to the show of Fringe, this resolution I have a lot of problems with, because the resolution to the grand, large conflict is not Walter showing character growth or being willing to sacrifice his son, and instead it's him moving on from violating reality and having him violate time. And now we just snap back to our time. That's it. Literally, we're done in that whole timeline. That was all of it. That's over now. And we're back to Peter at the machine, stepping out of it. Why was any of that necessary? Part of the reason I think I might actually like season 5 more than season 3, blasphemy among some fans to say I know, is, well, narratively, it doesn't have the highs of early season 3. Thematically, it does something for some of our characters that I feel is way more cathartic as a conclusion for them. But we will get there when we cover season 5. We're back on the other side because we see Folivia is brought out of her cell and is brought by Walternate to witness as Peter appears in both universes at the same time. But Peter gets down from the machine and, well,
This isn't a war that can be won. Our two worlds are inextricable. If one side dies, we all die.
So I've torn holes in both the universes, and they lead here, to this room, a bridge, so that we can begin to work together to fix.
Well, this is awkward. All the alternates are together because Peter has made a bridge, and this somehow healed everything. Not so much of an explanation, and what happened to Peter there? Why are there so many observers outside? Well, the observers then explain that no one in that bridge or in the universes remembers Peter. He never existed now. This is the end of season 3 of Fringe. This is where the cracks do begin to show. I was harsh on this ending, admittingly so. I'll say it again. I still really like this season, especially after the first half. I didn't cover some of the positives that were here because we already talked about those incredible angles of the show for hours in the first video, which if you haven't checked out, I highly recommend you do. It's a lot more overall positive than this one. For me though, when something starts stepping off a good path, I think it's important to take note and examine why. Fringe is still my favorite sci-fi show ever, but just as much as I want to give praise, I want to learn from mistakes. Clearly, the writers wanted to write a universe-ending storyline. They wanted us versus them irrevocably. I totally understand that, but it wasn't needed. Ease off on the stakes and take away our universe might end. Only their universe is dying, due to their Peter being taken away without his mask being replaced. Remember how that was entirely dropped? Use the Broyles event to show Mask doesn't have to be the same person. Our team tries to explain, but Walternate on the other side is just hell-bent on revenge, because his wife died too. That way, you can even have the Tassel team working against him like they tried to set up here, but then fell apart. Is this perfect? Not at all, but I think it demonstrates there could have been something here with nearly as high as stakes that didn't need to bring in pre-dinosaur people. Okay, let's move on to the good things. The emotional devastation of having someone steal your life has never been portrayed better on TV than Anna Torv does here. She is strong while breaking. Olivia is reasonable even in emotional turmoil. Even when the writing does slip in this conflict, the actress at the center of it makes you believe whatever is happening. Additionally, one of my big regrets of this script is I wasn't able to talk about Astrid more. Fortunately, in the next seasons, this character is finally done justice to, but Jessica Nichols takes what criminally little the writers give her character and runs miles with it. And one final note, I really realized finishing this video here how much I subconsciously took from Olivia in this specific season for my own protagonist Taya Mint in Neon Ghosts. Some of the mannerisms even, it's about how they process trauma. As far as best Fringe concept, there honestly isn't a ton of them this season, as you can tell, and a lot of the ones that we did get were fairly redundant, but it's absolutely whatever the hell that Broyles dummy thing is. That's a Fringe event. You cannot tell me it's not. Somehow, when they sent Simmers over to our universe, he turned into rubber. All things considered though, I would give Fringe Season 1 an 8.5. I would give Fringe Season 2 a 9, and I would give Fringe Season 3 a soft 7. It's clearly a downgrade at times. From what I remember though, Season 4 is an improvement, and I can't wait to talk with you all about it. If you want to see that video sooner rather than later, please like and subscribe, and more importantly, share this video. These videos are crazy intensive to make for my editor and I. Thank you all so much, and I appreciate anyone who stuck around this long to really hear my full thoughts and opinions on such a wild ride. I love you all. Thank you for giving me this life, and check out my book if you want to support what I do here, Neon Ghosts or Rebels Creed, Breach of Peace, and have a good one, y'all. Peace.